Jeff, Zach, thanks for joining me.
Hey,
Hi,
Steve.
Steve.
Hey, good to have you guys. And we are talking about a very interesting headline we saw about a secret mortgage blacklist. This one might be a little more clickbait, but there is some truth to it. Actually, in the Wall Street Journal reported it, so it's got to be true, right? A lot of condo owners apparently can't sell because they're on this secret blacklist. What it is a list maintained by Fannie Mae, and it includes condo associations the mortgage giant doesn't believe had adequate property insurance. That list really kind of grew in numbers after we had the Surfside condo collapse in Florida. But it also has pretty good representation from properties in California, Colorado, Hawaii, Texas. But think about condos, homeowners associations that aren't carrying what is deemed as adequate insurance, and therefore individual units aren't able to get mortgages. Florida itself has more than 1,400 developments that are apparently on this quote unquote blacklist. The blacklist term, I gotta love it. Sounds very sinister. But the truth is no joke for some of these unit owners. Your guys' thoughts?
I'll make this one kind of short and sweet. This isn't like a new list. This list has been around for a very long time. At one point I had a mortgage company, and you'd refer to this list to see who was financeable, if they were already on the short list of financeable or not financeable. And it's not just relegated to insurance. It's whether or not they've got enough reserves, whether or not it's a long 5, 6, sometimes longer page list of questions that says, and makes it pretty easy for Fannie or Freddie to decide whether or not they're going to finance a condo or a unit that's in one of these associations.
Yeah, it sounds like this list is maintained for making sure that condo associations are adequately funded and protected because they're trying to avoid um, situations where things could collapse. And I don't mean to say that, with pun after you mentioned Surfside, but they don't want condo associations to collapse from lack of funding so that they can't do landscaping or basic repairs. It also sounds like they, are keeping this list to protect themselves from projects that may or may not be suspect structurally or otherwise. But it doesn't seem fair to penalize the homeowners related to it. So, maybe the thing here would be sending some level of notice or otherwise to those associations so they can correct anything that they have to and become financeable because the only person that's really getting hurt is the homeowner.
Yeah, and I think
Well, I mean, look, the other side too is, I mean, you're right, and then the seller as well. I mean, it's a seller protect, or the buyer protection. Sorry, from the side of it's like, would you want to move into an association that has 80% of their homeowners aren't paying into the dues, so that you're now sitting in a situation where none of your maintenance is getting taken care of. And that's ultimately it's actually a buyer and lender protection, and that's what it was intended to be. Now it's just kind of expanded, and people think it's unfair, but the truth is, if you live in a community that sucks, that's unfortunate.
well, I think the key here, actually, the real news here is that apparently before Surfside, this list had a few hundred properties,
What was that?
communities on it.
Thousands.
Yeah, and now it's over 5,000. So there's just been an exponential increase. So I think, that's more the news here is that this was kind of, not that big of a deal. Now that we're talking in the thousands, and these are, properties that have multiple units on them, we're talking about something that's actually starting to affect some people, and they need to pay attention to, does their association have adequate insurance? Is it adequately capitalized? Because apparently more and more are kind of falling onto this problem list.
Yeah,
So
I
you're
mean, and then
basically saying don't buy a condo, right?
in a way, yeah. But the other side too is, most people don't realize, like, they want to live in like a mixed use project where they've got condo associations that have a mixture of commercial and residential. And typically that list also includes properties where the association has more than 30% of the properties commercial. They just won't finance it. It's not financeable by Fannie and Freddie because of all of their policies and procedures. And it seems kind of stupid, but most of it is just about the association's ability to maintain the properties.
Yeah, and I would point out too that there's kind of two issues within this. I mean, there's one issue that we've largely been talking about, the cost of insurance, the cost of everything, but there is an issue that's kind of very particular to Florida and what happened with Surfside, where for some of the older Florida condo developments in high rises or multi-level buildings, the cost of getting them up to code is really onerous. So there's an issue here that's very specific to Florida condos of a certain year that aren't up to code and the cost of bringing them to code. So I don't want to spook people by making them think that, this is, really a huge issue across the country because I think the real jump has been related to older condos in multi-story developments.
Yeah. And I would say, the other side from buyer's perspective, if you're looking at buying into a condo association before you even get down the path, ask somebody for their documents and look and see how what their policies are, their procedures are. It may not be somewhere you want to live anyway, but if you've got an abundance of owners that are behind in their regular dues, you may not want that. You might, the other side too is you may want to make sure that what you're buying into doesn't have any large special assessments coming up, to your point, Steve.
Yeah, no, and great points, Jeff. Okay, hey, hit us with some comments, some things we might not be getting or missing, or some things you maybe think I got wrong, or you might want to hear more on this topic. Like, give us some likes. We always appreciate those. And visit our website, selectfincap.com. Get on our free newsletter, which will also give you a look at some exclusive commercial real estate investment opportunities. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Steve.
Dave.